Hey. All right, you ready, David?
Go ahead.
Oh, damn
Nailed it.
it. That would hurt right in the elbow on the desk. Let's try this again. You're listening to This Week in No Code plus AI, with weekly episodes sharing the latest advancements of AI, plus exclusive interviews, founders using these tools. So without any further ado, let's get started. Welcome to This Week in No Code. I'm your host, JJ Englert, here with my co-host, David Pal. Welcome back, David. What an exciting couple weeks it's been
What
in No
a
Code and AI.
good week back. It's October. Q3, Q4.
Q4,
Q4.
October, conference October, they call it in the no code industry, with
Conference over.
BubbleCon and No Code Summit coming up next
Legal
week. I'm very
industry too is all conferences all the time.
I love it. I'm really excited to be going to Paris next week for the No Code Summit. Get to meet many of you there that I haven't been able to meet before in real life. So that's going to be super cool. I will be hanging out at the Software booth. So make sure you come by, say hello. I'll give you a demo of Software. I'll give you some sweet free swag. We got shirts, socks, coffee cups, stickers. I think that's it. But our coffee cups are pretty cool. I'm really excited about those.
That sounds good.
Yeah.
Does it have
Um,
coffee in it? That would be cool. I want some coffee.
no code, only coffee.
All right. Yeah.
All right.
Keep going on. Moving on.
That's the slogan for it. So let's had to plug it. Um, Also decided
Sure.
to just build a new SaaS over the weekend, which I'll give you some updates about. But otherwise, the topic for today, David, is going to be BubbleCon, because you and I both attended it last
Well, both.
week.
Pop, pop, pop.
We saw a ton of you in person. So great to see you all. And for those that have dropped by to say to David or I that you have watched the podcast, that you enjoy it or whatever, or just giving us feedback, we really appreciate that.
Yeah.
So cool to see you guys IRL. But otherwise, we have a little bit of news to get into, and then we'll get into our BubbleCon analysis recap, what we think about Bubble, the future, how other no-code industries are playing out, the feedback that we got from agency owners about the things that are working or not working, their direction, given all the news in the no-code industry. So a lot to get into, but let's get started with the no-code news of the week with David.
All right, so let's start with OpenAI Dev Day. OpenAI had another Dev Day. They started off kind of saying, "Hey, don't expect too much this time." Like, I think we're hitting one of the flattenings of the plateau. Products are growing and we're doing new things, but not everything can be a breakthrough.
And
Who
maybe
knows?
there's just not enough processing power in the world at the moment.
Maybe, it's interesting there. I read an article this week. This is, I guess, part of the news. OpenAI is trying to move away from its reliance on just Microsoft, complaining that they're not moving fast enough at giving them server space. And so they're starting to partner and make deals with Oracle to bring
Wow.
lots and lots of server space. I think, they're getting lots of pressure from everybody else to
Yeah.
fight over this space. And, Elon Musk going on Twitter claiming to have the largest data center to train XAI and all that stuff has
Yeah.
gotten them a little nervous, right? And you can even see these nerves. And I know we're a little away from OpenAI Dev Day. They raised $6.5 billion. It's
Yeah.
crazy.
Yeah.
But
On
but in
what was the
this
valuation? Like a 60 billion?
157 billion.
That's right. 157.
157 billion. It is absolutely insane. It's basically I think they say something like next year's revenue will be 11 billion, then 25 billion. They're gonna triple this year, then double again next year.
But what's the
One
burn rate again, David?
All of it.
It was like
It's like
$5 billion, right?
yeah,
A
it's like
year?
hundreds of millions a month. Um, One of the terms that they're trying to get people to sign off on is that you can't invest in other general purpose models. Like, you can't invest in Anthropic, you can't invest in XAI, you can't also they can't really hold the investors to this, but that's what they're trying to
Yeah.
basically say. Yeah. Don't give them money. And the takes that I've seen on this are
That's an
basically like,
NVIDIA playbook right there of
it
taking up
could
all the
work,
chips for
it could hurt
themselves.
them. It could really
Yeah.
hurt, because one of the things that it signals is OpenAI is worried about Anthropic and coming and not always being at first.
Yeah.
And you see this a lot. One of the pieces of Dev Day was they launched Canvas, OpenAI has launched Canvas, which is very similar to Anthropic's artifacts, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it makes sense. I mean, they did poach the head of research of artifacts over to OpenAI, so it makes sense that they're launching it. But, they're now like, for the first time, it feels like playing catch up. Like it was always OpenAI first, maybe Anthropic, and now it's like, maybe not.
Yeah. There's other competition that is maturing in the market, and it's starting to be more of a battle than it ever has been before, which I think is very healthy. But yeah,
Yeah.
them requiring their investors to not invest elsewhere definitely seems like a play out of NVIDIA's playbook of, trying to take all the chips and buy all of the manufacturing for all those chips themselves, so their competitors just can't get it.
Yeah.
And I think we're kind of in that shortage environment right now where all the energy in the world isn't enough for the amount that we actually need for this next generation. And even with Elon Musk's like server farm that he put up, like the residents of that town are really pissed that he did that because shortage on the power grid now,
Yeah.
problem with the local water now, like all that stuff is like spinning up whole new problems for the world because of the new reliance on the power needed for things like this. And so it's very interesting to see all of this going on, and I think it's
Mhm.
just a start.
Yeah. There definitely is going to be more data centers. Like they're not
Yeah,
going to train less.
right.
So we'll see. We will absolutely see other things interesting. Voice AI, real time voice AI endpoints are available. Some
Yeah,
vision fine tuning is coming, or has been unveiled. Um, and they are introducing prompt caching, another thing they're borrowing from other people. The idea of being able to save a prompt halfway through or pieces of a prompt so you don't have to keep setting those tokens. Interesting
yeah.
response to everything, I guess.
Yeah, I like generally if you've tried it recently on the web version, I like how it's getting more real time. It's line by line updates. You could start to get more granular with it. That's definitely the direction that we need to go. So it's exciting to see that. I think the voice real time API is still very early for a lot of people, but this is definitely going to change a lot of the way that we do things from a business, customer service, sales, etc. It's not there yet, but it has the potential to really
Yeah.
create a lot of um, you know, not adoption, but just a lot of change in this industry. Synflow's been really far ahead in a lot of ways with this, with all that they're doing. And it's cool that they've also been built on no code for majority of it. By
Yeah.
the way, did you see their server bill?
No.
Albert came out this last month and said they're paying $18,000 per month for Bubble right now.
Oh, for Bubble. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
makes
I haven't
sense.
seen the actual server bill, but and that's a lot of money. They've raised money. They're shooting for a big TAM. Big players gotta pay a lot of money, I'm not sure, but it's a lot of money per month.
Yeah, but think about the other fees they're paying, like
Yeah, yeah,
the
yeah. I think
Bubble
Bubble's a
fees.
front end really only for them too.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. They're doing
Yeah,
everything else with code and other servers.
yeah.
They're probably using other APIs and OpenAI and all that. 11 Labs, all of that stuff is probably way more than
Yeah, it's
18,000
probably
dollars.
50 to 70 grand a month,
Yeah.
you know?
So it's expensive.
Yeah, it's expensive, that's for sure. Let's talk about Google. They're now integrating ads into AI-powered search results to boost revenue amidst growing competition. So Google's continues to be in an interesting spot here. Not only with this, but they're just facing a lot of regulatory pressures, monopoly pressures. They have a lot that's coming at them right now. Google is also trying to figure out how their ads are going to be used in a world with AI search results, etc. And so this is Google beginning to place ads in its new AI-powered search results, making a significant shift as it integrates generative AI into the search engine. These ads appear within AI-generated summaries called AI overviews, currently available on mobile in the US. For example, a search on stain removal might show relevant shopping ads alongside the AI summary. So
Mhm.
I think it was a matter of time till they got here. And I think this also adds more conversation about, all right, now with AI search results, what about SEO? What about all these other things? And there have been some marketers, SEO reporters essentially saying that we are starting to see search traffic pick up from AI algorithms recommending us in certain ways, similar to what, they might have seen with SEO traffic previously. And so I think generally, AI is learning from the web and
Mhm.
it's getting all that information there. And so it's a better search engine with more real-time personalized results, but still trained on the web and still going to feed it the most popular responses it finds, which could be your site.
Yeah, I mean, if you think about the entry point for Google, it's the same, right? You type a question into Google and you got search results and ads.
Yeah.
Okay, great. That's not different than typing a search result and getting an AI response,
Right.
right? You now they just need to incorporate the ad into the site options, right? And now
Yeah.
you're just kind of not just searching the web and getting web results. You're now also trying to run ad serving and topic matching and all of that, which AI is pretty good at,
Yeah.
right? Like it's now baked in. Oh, give me an answer and a topic, and I'll go find you before I return the results. I'll find you an ad, right? Like
Yeah.
OpenAI Perplexity, they have the benefit of having ad servers. And I wouldn't be surprised if Google is okay with them using their ads too, right? They
Hmm.
want the ad revenue through Perplexity. I mean, Perplexity needs like it's going to be hard for them to build a sales team that beats Google's,
Right.
right? And so if people are using it for search, they want to be there. It makes total sense. We have seen um, search results from ChatGPT.
You
Like
have.
on
Right.
our app, we see some people sending directly from ChatGPT.com.
Yeah.
I would
That's
pay
great.
to be the number one result,
Of
the
course.
best version of the thing, not the second or third. I would pay to be at the top of that. Find me ways to do this.
Yeah.
Search. I would pay for that. So
Well,
yeah, I
let's talk
mean, it
about
makes
that for a
sense.
second. How do you think people get there? I think the only thing is you just create a lot of content answering the most popular questions with your brand very visible in all that content. And then hopefully AI will scrape that and then include it in the responses for more content. What do you think?
Yeah, we used AI to create content to then be consumed by AI, which is great because, honestly, some of the content that was written, I wouldn't have written it that way. It sounds very much like it has been written by
Yeah.
AI. Um,
How much content did you write?
20 articles, maybe less than 20 articles,
Okay. So still
but
very small,
something.
but
Yeah.
yeah, something and it's already ranking. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah. And so now the AI picks up, they read it. It doesn't matter what it really sounds like to a human, right?
Yeah.
It's read by the AI SEO scraper, right? Like, who cares?
Yeah. So let me
Um,
ask you a question. Do
mhm.
you think that because you wrote it with AI, it's indexed faster than not writing it with AI and then AI having to then scrape the web and finding it?
No, I don't think that changes. I think
Okay.
using a tool like Framer instead of Bubble, or like pushing the links into Google Search Console, are more impactful than whether it's written in AI or not. It is better because I have written it, period. Like it is
Yeah.
available instead of me not writing it because I don't have time to write it or hiring
Yeah.
somebody to write it. That is better.
Yeah.
Um, I talked to somebody, so I'm working in the legal space. I'm worried about putting out bad information. And I was talking to someone, actually, I think the found Mac from Byword, which I think is built on Bubble as well. Um, he was like, it's better to write it, put it out, and then edit it later than not to write it at all. Like,
Fair.
just put a line at the bottom. Hey, we're not lawyers. Go search, talk to your
Yeah.
lawyer.
Yeah.
And
Agreed.
so that's what we did. We're like, great, we'll put this out and hopefully it's right. If someone tells us it's wrong, we'll fix it.
Strong advice.
But we want people to go to it. Right. And we want to be able
Yeah.
to show up at the top of the list. We want to have a list of blog articles. Most people won't read all of them or any of them. They'll just see a blog exists.
Yeah.
Like all of that kind of stuff. So yeah, I think that's kind of my take on it. We are doing sales right now. We're not trying. It would be nice, but I don't think our business is going to be run off of search results.
Yeah.
So it's not that big of a deal for us. We just want when people search for our name, we show up, right?
Yeah.
And they know us.
The advice that he gave you segues nicely into the SaaS that I built. And the advice was it's better to do it than not to do it. Right. And so that's a thing that I've been struggling with as a builder that's
Yeah.
very busy is I have always had these ideas for SaaSes, right? And if you talk to me at BubbleCon, I was telling you that I've been looking for an idea to build for a SaaS, but like my typical protocol is like at some point I find a reason to say no. right? And that has led me
Sure.
into a cycle where I'm just not building anything because it just never gets past that perfect idea never comes along. And so this last weekend, I had an idea and I was just like, I'm literally not even going to tell anybody. I'm just going to start building. Right. And it's like, it could be a very bad thing, but
Yeah.
I'm able to build so fast now that at the worst case scenario, I lose a weekend, a weekend.
Sure.
And so I started building and using Bubble AI and design, the Figma to Bubble conversion. I was able to put together and Figma UI kits, all this kind of stuff. I was able to put together a landing page, sign up, log in, dashboard, 4 different dashes within it, about 10 different APIs that I'm using, and some of them being AI. And so now I have this SaaS, and the idea of the SaaS is to help indie makers find backlinks for their domains to increase their search traffic
Mhm.
automatically or with AI, right?
Sure.
So for those that don't know, backlinks generally show Google that the more that you have going to your domain, the more referrals you have and the more reputable it is, and you have good information there. And sometimes Google rewards you with that with higher search ranking and generally a higher domain rating. There's some black and whites, and I'm not a professional SEO marketer, but from my knowledge in this field, that's what I found. But generally, indie makers just don't take the time to do that research and that outreach because it's laborious, and they're focused on a lot of other things, and they're trying to run a business as a solo founder. So I was like, okay, what if I can take this laborious process and just automate it with AI? And I'm almost there. I'm like 90% there. Just been doing it nights and weekends, getting ready to launch my V1. And so the idea is you put in your domain, and then immediately we hit an API that gets your domain information, your ranking, all the backlinks that are currently ranked for you. We show you in order in terms of like the best backlink to the worst backlink, all the anchor text, all that kind of stuff, and give you suggestions on how you can improve your current backlinks. Uh, and then also we give you opportunities for
Mhm.
rank links that are ranking high for something you want to achieve, like a keyword, but you don't already achieve. And then from there, what we're doing is we're using AI and APIs. You can just one click button where it's like, all right, I want that backlink, and we'll go try and contact and arrange that backlink for you in an automated fashion. So hopefully it's a tool where you can plug in your domain and then get daily, if not weekly updates of like, hey, here's how your backlinks are changing, adding, here's new opportunities. Click here if you want us to try and do this outreach for you kind of thing, with some friendly suggestions along the way. So it's called tradebacklinks.com. It's not
Mm.
launched yet. Haven't even deployed it yet. But uh, if it works or not, we'll see. It's one of those things where I'm using it for my own personal purposes, and I will release it once it's like, okay, this is actually helping me. But otherwise, I'm just excited to have built a new SaaS and soon to be finished with it. And I think that's the moral of the story there.
So the name is Tradebacklinks, but
Tradebacklinks.com.
am I trading with other indie hackers? Don't I want better, higher domain relevant or whatever the rating
Yeah,
is?
generally, Google looks down upon those that buy backlinks, right? And generally, you also only want to help someone if they're going to help you in return. So the
Yeah.
core premise is trading with like-minded people that have similar domains that you can help each other. That's the core premise. Who knows where it goes to as it matures? But my thought is, if you give someone a backlink, you have a credit, whereas you could then get that credit with someone else that maybe is more in your area or your niche of that they
Mhm.
can then, so it's like, hey, I'm going to work to give you 5 backlinks, and then I'm going to use those credits to find niche websites that are fit within my category and then get backlinks from them kind of thing, while also bringing all the users together and make it clear who's open to share or not. So you can then have conversations
Mm.
with those people as well.
Got it. And how do you get paid?
It's going to be a SaaS thing where it costs us money each month to run with the APIs and everything. And so we'll give users probably like $29 a month. We'll give you up to like 50 domain outreaches per month kind of thing. And so we'll automate up to 50 domains a month and let you communicate and trade with everything. And then we'll also monitor your backlinks and if they ever stop coming to you as well. So you can be aware of that as well.
Mm.
That's the
Got
initial
it.
thoughts.
Interesting. Cool. That's
Yeah.
great. Good luck. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you. Let's get on to BubbleCon. What do you say?
Great. Let's talk BubbleCon.
All right. I just did like a super monologue, so why don't you start?
All right. So BubbleCon, New York City, Monday. Oh, I was there on Monday for some user session, and then Tuesday, Wednesday was BubbleCon.
Korean
Um,
barbecue, so good.
Missed the bar. I did not get barbecue this time.
It
Um,
was good.
it was, I think the highlight, of course, was the people,
Of
right? I
course.
think it's so nice. I didn't get to go last year. Um, it was nice to meet so many people that I've interacted with for 8
Years.
years, 7,
Yeah.
8 years online. It was really cool to see them in person and just, give them a hug, shake their hand, have a drink, and just talk like not in 160 character quips.
Yeah.
Um, it's interesting. It was a lot of fun. That was my favorite part. For me, I started in a user section with Peter and Teo and Grace and a bunch of other bubble agency owners and freelancers. And, one of the things we were talking about was like, what's hard at work right now?
Mhm.
And I think everyone was talking about getting more clients, right? We're agency owners.
Always. Yeah.
And yeah, that was kind of like what came out of that was how
Yeah.
do we help Bubble? What can Bubble do? Um,
What was, like, one of the things, like, what could they do to help just increase general, awareness of the platform kinda thing? Bring more
yeah, I
search
think
traffic
some
to
of
the
it was
experts
that. I think
page?
some was like, how do we figure out how to get the right ICP? Like, how do we define the ICP for Bubble devs and
Sure.
agencies? Um, yeah, I think that was the hardest. I think that's the biggest point. And I kept hearing that
Yeah.
throughout the conference of like, who's Bubble's target audience, right? Like, someone said, "Oh, this is a Bubble dev conference." Like, someone was comparing it to FlutterFlow
Mhm.
and the FlutterFlow conference, and how the FlutterFlow conference was a technical conference, right? They were like
A
how-tos
developer
and
first
yeah, it was
conference.
like really developer, and that's what they said. It's secondhand. I wasn't there.
Yeah.
Um,
Whereas
Bubble's
Bubble
conference
felt yeah.
felt marketing and product, like how to build a product, how to build an agency, not let's talk about proper etiquette in the editor. Let's talk
Yeah.
about how to build things like this. Let's
Mhm.
talk about like using AI or using APIs or that kind of stuff.
Mhm.
And I don't
Absolutely.
know if that was like there weren't any technical sessions, right? Like, Eli's not getting up there talking about, how to
Do
integrate with
navigation with
Zano
tabs,
or,
whatever. Yeah.
and they had Gregory John talk about SEO, which he's
Mm.
a master at talking about.
Yeah.
And it was a great session, not really technical bubble work. It was like, just a thing, right?
Yeah.
That you can now do to help your startup be more successful. Right. And so, I think there was a little bit of that. And then there was how to sell to enterprises. They were talking about enterprises. They were talking about can you sell to enterprise? Because I think that's where they want to go. Bubble wants more enterprise subscriptions. They want more $3,500 a month dedicated
Plus.
plans.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, and that's kind of where that kind of went. The drinks were fun. The conference, I think,
It's
overall was pretty good. I'd say the critique I gave this directly to the bubble team there was it was really annoying going to a networking session on the calendar and getting shushed. I thought
because
that
the
was
space
just
was too
like,
small. Yeah.
yeah, I thought that was like, guys, we're here to meet each other. Like, find another space where we can step away from the main stage
Yeah.
when there's nothing else going on and talk to each other.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Um, That was the thing that was, like, the most surprising that had not been solved from last year, which was a big critique last year, I think.
Yeah, I think a lot of your insights is spot on. I think generally the people that attended BubbleCon were like more pro users, whereas they also had a live streaming audience that we got the feeling weren't like that.
Mhm, mhm.
Generalized. I'm sure there were some pros on there, but and so they were trying to find that balance of bubblers are in all different stages. How do we create content that accommodates everyone? And so they kind of just stayed high level throughout all of it because of such. Some of the things that I was a little bit surprised about is um, it still seems like Bubble's very much staying true to the entrepreneur, the MVP builder with their product, meaning they are building for this user. And I did think that they were working more towards business, SMBs, enterprise use cases, but
Yeah.
it really does seem like now we're staying with the MVP builder, the entrepreneur. We want to take them from idea to IPO. They said it a couple times. I'm glad to see that personally because I do think Bubble excels with that. And I think it takes a very particular person to learn Bubble because it is a visual programming language, as they refer to there. It's very difficult to learn, and you need that drive to like really
Yeah.
get through that learning stage. And I think MVP and builders are like one of the few of like, I don't have many other options. I can't pay a developer to do this. I just have to do it myself. And they have that drive to learn Bubble and to then build it. And I think it's successful there. I am worried though they're because of their market positioning and their user, they have a very select group that works well for them. It's not just like the any SMB professional because Bubble's too hard for them. They
Yeah.
can't get past the learning curve. That's more like softer. So you have to find that entrepreneur that's willing to go through 3 months of learning, and then they build their MVP, and hopefully their MVP works. It could not, and then they could just turn there. And chances
Yeah.
are that we've seen a lot of those builders would then continue to use Bubble for another thing until it finds success, right? But for Bubble, that could be a while until that actually app brings in revenue that's worth it because of the learning journey, launching the startup, all that kind of stuff. They're not really making much money during that process, right? And then the next thing is while Bubble was showcasing a lot of successful apps and a lot of traffic and everything, the feedback that I got from participants there was you're on Bubble until a certain extent, and then it no longer
And
makes
then
sense
what?
because
Yeah.
yeah, and then
Everyone was
because
trying to figure out what that breaking point was. And
right,
even
and
from the
it's
pro developers, not
and
even
there's a
just like
lot of different
tech
ways to
players.
do it, but generally, Bubble's not focused on the enterprise builder. They're not building features really for enterprise builder. They're just trying to fix core functionality and get the main experience right for all users right now. And I think they still got a little bit to go with that. And so those enterprise builders that I talked to were a little frustrated because it's like we're up here and it feels like we're just not a main priority. And the things that we need, we don't really see on the roadmap or happening. And so it's kind of a matter of time till we find a platform that will accommodate to us, will
Yeah.
put us in focus. And so, yeah, I feel good about them, working with that MVP audience from an economic standpoint. It's a little worrying because it does feel like they're just getting a small part of the market, and that's a hard part to get. But they seem relying on staying there.
Yeah, I mean, I think there was an AMA with a bubble engineer, and I missed it, so I talked to someone about it after, and it just seemed like the answer to almost anything was, "We could get there, but we have tech debt in the way. It's not built that way, so we need this workaround. It's not this, we need this other thing." And I think this is, I'm sure they made decisions and they've learned along a lot of the way. Um, there are lots of bad practices out in the community that are making it harder for Bubble to then adopt better tooling and technologies because they couldn't just switch something off because lots of things will break.
Yeah.
And we'd all be up in arms if they all of a sudden like changed core functionality, like, hey,
And it's a
you
very
can't do
big and
lists of
old
things
platform.
anymore. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think, you know, I, it's, we are asking them. I think their pricing is still a problem.
For larger
Just
applications.
yeah, like this workflow unit is a hindrance. Um, I mean, we see this at the agency, like we keep bumping up into credits. We don't even have users yet. And we're like, all right, bumping up to the edge. Like we're processing stuff and there's a lot of like restarting this like engine because of how it's gonna
Yeah.
run. We don't know how it's gonna go, but it's annoying,
Yeah.
right? Because um like, we can't predict what's gonna happen, and they don't have good tools around that, and enterprises can't like, there's no workflow cap because 'cause they're on an enterprise plan, um, but I think people are nervous about that, like, they don't wanna
Mhm.
start an application 'cause it's not $29 a month for most cases, right? If
Mhm.
you run into some workflow unit. Other enterprise folks that I was talking about were they're building MVPs and then re-implementing them in code. And they're like, why are we doing this? This is kind of a pain. This is like kind of worthless. And so I think they're not succeeding at enterprises at least. And I was disappointed by the number of the success stories they were talking about, and those details. Like, I was talking to Teo, and I was like, "Well, it's great that Seagate was here. I think what they've done is awesome. I think that path to success is unlikely for an agency. They started by having a Bubble developer on the team. Like, they
Mhm.
hired someone who happened to know Bubble, and then they started doing it. And they
Yeah.
talk about all these hurdles and challenges of getting infosec and legal and the PMs and the CTO office and like all these other people involved. And then trying to run pen tests and running into bubble limitations and how, like, in my contract, if I wanted to sign an enterprise, I don't know who I was talking to about this. I'd need to include a clause that if there's a pen test and you have to pay a bounty for a security flaw, that I don't have to pay it as the agency who built it if it's a bubble flaw.
Mhm.
Like, if
Yeah.
bubble doesn't do the right thing, then we
Yeah.
have to handle this. Um, and so that was a little disappointing, but I think that was an aside. The Seagate example, I don't think I could recreate. I would need to go basically teach a PM at a company about the power of bubble and hope they'd be our champion
Yeah.
to bring this to them. And so
Yeah, and
that
that's what
can
we also find in the startup world is usually that CEO is a bubble champion of some sort, and they're
Mhm.
willing to go through all these hoops because they know of their overall benefits. But it takes
Yeah,
that champion from the inside, and and so it makes sense for Seagate because someone was already there in
yeah,
that org that knew Bubble and then was able to do it. And I think that's the most common path that we've found
yeah.
for Bubble, like getting
And
into these bigger orgs.
and his suggestion to me, his plan of attack was start with a small internal tool and single problem. And I was like, that sounds great, but I'm gonna have to do a ton of work to get a very small project. And he was like, yeah, don't expect to make money on the first project. But if you get in, it's a very lucrative
Sure.
place because you could charge $500,000 a year to do all these things.
And now
And I was like,
you're talking
Okay,
about as an agency being able
as
to
an
build for a
agency.
Seagate.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And I think that's a fair assessment. I was talking to Teo, and this is kind of how it started. Where is everybody else? Like, where are the other stories? Like, why is there
Yeah.
just one? The keynote was the chief product officer from Jasper. I think
Yeah.
Jasper.
Yeah.
Um, and he didn't talk about Bubble. There was like
No.
no code. Like, why is he the keynote? Like, did they just happen to know the chief product officer? Like,
He
why
was
isn't there a great story about using Bubble in an awesome way? Even like some of the humanitarian stuff, some of the like, why not like
Yeah,
a
this guy was very accomplished in his own right, and,
yeah,
I think he
for
did
sure.
good generally, but yeah, there
Yeah.
was no connection to no code.
He belonged at a project management conference,
Mhm.
not necessarily at it was almost a pitch for Jasper more than it
It
was.
was kind of a pitch for Jasper, and also it was just, like, very basic APIs that we can build in a second with, no code that we can then do ourselves, so yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it was a little surprising, like, that's what
we
happened.
also talked to, the CEO at AirDev and asked them about,
Yeah.
what kind of clients are you getting? What is the size of these clients? What is that average clients? And they too were saying that, we still get small clients, like, yeah, we have enterprise people, but it's not like our normal pitch that takes a long time. We're still getting, what was it, like 30, 40, $50,000
Something like
clients.
that. Mhm.
Yeah, something like that to build their MVPs for. Still, it's MVPs that they're normally building with a player like AirDev. So, yeah, like I will say, like, and you were a part of a lot more than this, maybe but as an agency owner there at Bubble, there is definitely opportunity and people are making some real money. One of the agencies said that they were made $300,000 in revenue this past month. I'm not going to name any names, but like just as a Bubble agency, that is possible.
Mhm.
But at the
Yeah.
same time, that also maybe seems like the ceiling, or the ceiling is close to that, or it has. I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah, I think the hardest part is churn. I think quick one-off projects are not great for any agency. I think any agency that does, like, really short engagements and then they never hear from someone again is a tough business for everyone. I've
Yeah.
been asking lots of people about this, agency owners like that are design agencies they, have a project and they never hear from them again. That's a tough one. Marketing agencies, like, on the other hand, usually pretty sticky. Like, you always need more marketing. That's your revenue driver. Product and design is usually a little secondary. Once you have something up and running, right? I think, and then the issue of people bringing it in house if they want. Like, it's a tough churning business. Um, so I don't know. I don't know what the answer is. I think everyone's searching for their ICP, who they should actually be selling to. I've been preaching this, like, dual-sided ICP, not just who can I go sell to, because I can go sell MVP work, right? I can go find startup founders. I can go talk to them. It's hard, but you can do it.
That's a
That's what
typical
people are
play
doing
I feel
now,
like.
right?
Yeah,
But is that the right customer for my business?
right.
Right, for me as an agency, is that who I really want to be working with? I'm not sure.
Yeah.
Um, I don't know the answer. We have not talked about one, and I wanna be mindful of time. We have not
Yeah.
talked about one really important announcement.
Yeah, I wanna talk about there's that, and then also native mobile, talk about that.
We can
But
talk about
but
native
but
mobile.
before we get into that, some more whispers from FlutterCon. Um, what someone that attended FlutterCon was saying that FlutterFlow as a really developer-focused tool for developers are really focused in enterprise. And part of that is that from what I've heard, they're not really accepting much with their agencies, but are more so going to the big consulting companies like
Hmm,
Deloitte, and others to make these enterprise sales. And from what I've heard, Deloitte had a successful experience selling FlutterFlow to GE, and now Deloitte is looking for 100 FlutterFlow developers to service that
wow,
contract.
that's
And
wild.
so that's the kind of like enterprise ask that we've never heard of with Bubble, right? And
Yeah.
I don't even think you could do it. Like I'm one of the
How
leading
could you get
recruiters in the
100 people?
space, and I could not get you 100 certified Bubble devs that would be like ready to go. Like it's there's not that, you can't do it. So yeah, and I don't think there's FlutterFlow is growing. I don't know if there's that many either, but I think the Flutterflow framework and getting people onto FlutterFlow might be faster than that of, Bubble if they know that framework already.
Yeah.
And so
Why weren't any big consult like, why wasn't there an Accenture and Deloitte and whoever else at the show? I didn't meet a single person in that role. That was
I
just a consultant.
yeah, I don't think, they're finding success with Bubble in that way, because it's a lock-in.
Well,
You don't
well,
have access to traditional code. You can't pass those enterprise security regulations. Like, it just I don't think it's possible in the Bubble world with their current infrastructure. And so I do think, like, if you're really focused in enterprise, I don't know if Bubble is gonna be the option for you. Still think if you wanna build MVPs and even take them really far, it's gonna be a fantastic option, but
yeah.
everything we're seeing says Bubble is not the enterprise player right now.
Yeah, that's probably about right. Let's talk mobile, then talk
Yeah,
laboratory equipment.
okay. So,
Uh,
native
or
mobile, it
mobile.
looks good. It looks like a first class experience. I was really floored with it. I am looking forward to building a mobile app for NoCode Alliance for all the no-code jobs, notifications, all that kind of stuff to get there. It looks first class. It
Have you
has
played
all
with
of the
the app that was launched?
they showed it to me. I played with it a little bit. There's still a lot of bugs. There's a lot of glitches kind of thing. There's still a little bit far away from it, but it looked great. I was really surprised and
The
happy with it.
editor was great, or the
The editor,
outputs?
um, I guess it was the editor, and then they showed me basic outputs on the phone with, like, the animations, the slides, all that kinda stuff, and it looked good as well.
Yeah, I played with one of these apps. Like, have you played with this? What's it called? I have it. I just
The new one
downloaded it.
was it the first one that got launched?
Sentio.
Sentio. I haven't played with it yet. Was it the first one?
I think so.
Yeah, I think so.
Um, so the first thing I noticed going back to Sentio is I'm not logged in anymore.
Okay.
Don't know how that
So
happened.
it's not saving that cookie.
Um, there's no login with Gmail. I don't know the scope of this app, right? Like,
Yeah,
I have no idea what it was aiming for.
yeah.
Um, I'm trying to log back in now. Um, it's slow.
Interesting.
Like, it's not. I did log in. Can you see this?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I don't know if this is a native bubble element, this
Yeah.
thing. It doesn't look great. Like, it's not,
it
there's nothing about this that I'm like, oh, heck yeah. And I don't know
could
if it's
it
just
could be the developer.
the design, it could be what they've built. Like, I don't know. I feel like everything is slow. Like, okay,
Mhm.
so here, let's see if I can do this. Try to do the backwards.
So push. That
Oh,
was
that one
quick.
worked. That one worked. It didn't the first time.
That's
These are all
quick
loaded.
too. Yeah. Maybe the
Admire
first load
entries
is slow.
like that. I don't know. It just wasn't. It's not snappy.
I don't know. That seems fine to me. I I think what I learned from it is they're still really early and like they're trying to push it out in the next 30, 60, 90 days, but even then it's going to be a little tough. So they showed us a really early look and I think they showed it to us because they needed to because they announced it last BubbleCon and they needed to get there. What I saw from the editor was promising. I asked some questions about like, hey, what about in-app purchases and all that kind of stuff? And that's not there yet. You'll have to redirect them to an open page kind of thing and make the purchase, in like a desktop mobile responsive
But they
page and
don't have
come
any.
back.
There are no plugins
There's
at the
no
moment.
plugins, but it is built on the
Is there
React
no
framework.
plugins, or like, could you use existing bubble plugins, or you can't use any plugins at all?
I that's blurry to me. I think you can use Bubble plugins. I think there will be some that you can use and some that you can't. And then also, since it's built in the React framework or libraries, you'll be able to bring in those libraries too to build plugins for mobile specific as well,
Mhm. Yeah,
which is cool.
I saw that. Yeah.
And generally, like building any app, you have to get an iOS and an Android developer account. You
Yeah.
need to get, pay for those. And still, the first submission could take you 2 to 4 weeks, they're saying, to get approved. There's two different ways to deploy over the air and like our app store review kind of thing.
Yep.
You'll need to abide by those. So the deploy is cool, though. It's like deploy to desktop, Android, iOS. I like that a lot. I think it's promising, and I think it continue to reaffirm their position of going after consumers B2C as a B2C company of native mobile apps.
Yeah.
Native mobile apps need to be in the App Store for consumers, and again, it's a B2C company, not that B2B enterprise business. So I think it makes sense, and,
Yeah. I'm
um
curious. I think Bubble is super focused on the editor and not focused on the outcome as much. And they want to make something and doesn't show up. I think if Bubble wants to be competitive, it needs to be able to do as much as an app builder could, like any app designer, right? Anyone with an app, anyone
I
with
mean
code,
and they'd
right?
probably tell you that it can, you know?
With a plugin, right? But I don't know. I'm always a little. We'll see. We'll see how it goes.
Yeah,
I hope it works. I'm kind of disappointed I don't have access. Like, I was
yeah,
there. Where is
yeah.
it?
I can tell you that there's a lot of good people on their team. They have a lot of really good people
Sure.
that are trying really hard and they care. And I think the fact of the matter is it's a very old platform and a very big platform. And right
Yes.
now they're so focused on core infrastructure and just getting that right and being able to get into a position where
Mhm.
once they go to build a new feature, they don't have to rebuild 12 other things.
Yep.
And so every new feature right now, they are rebuilding so many. And so I think they're still in that core infrastructure, stability, scaling, performance stage that they're not even really able to come up for fresh air on. Like
Mhm.
that's why the once a year, notes that they implemented for quality of life, like, those kind of things, like they're just still
Yeah.
so tight with personnel on just doing the basics that they're not quite there yet to take big strides towards innovation. And this was like the more realistic BubbleCon of like last year we gave you all this fluff and now we're trying to deliver on that. And so
Yeah.
here is the mobile app alpha. Here is the workflow alpha. Here is AI, but we didn't get really any
Yeah.
AI. They said
Everyone
more
was
AI is
timing
coming, but
out.
yeah,
It
it
was
was
timing
timing
out.
out and whatnot. So I think it's gonna take time. Good
Yeah.
people on the team. They're trying really hard. It's good to have them in the
Yeah.
industry, but,
Oh, for sure.
um, yeah,
Well, let's
so
talk about some new team members at Bubble.
d
Victor and
do
Wes, congratulations. Bubble's first acquisition, they
Yep,
acquired Flusk, the
yep,
security and management and logs, uh, a really wonderful application. congrats to them. They are now part of the Bubble team. I think Flusk will continue to exist as a standalone app. Then they will continue to integrate um, integrate into the Bubble product. Maybe
Yeah.
not directly, but I think Victor and Wes, like, they're great product people. Like, they have a really good sense of what good products should be, and I think
And
that
just
will be the
passionate
best,
bubblers.
yeah, the best value of knowing how people use Bubble, knowing the workarounds people need, all of what they've done in this,
Speaking to
like,
a lot of
log and
agency owners.
security stuff. Yeah,
Yeah.
I think, this is great. I'm super excited. I also hope this means, and we'll see, I hope people continue to build for the Bubble
Yeah.
community, knowing that this is an outcome. If it gets wide enough adoption, you can bring it into Bubble. I don't know what the economics look like. I hope it was good for everyone. I'm very happy for them. That was my favorite announcement.
Yeah.
I had
That was a
Victor
big
since even
one.
before
It was
Flusk.
low hanging fruit too in a lot of
Yeah,
ways. I think I think though that tells you that like that's probably the biggest announcement of BubbleCon. In all things considered, that's pretty small in terms of like, you know, as a small acquisition, a two-person team. Yes, it
yeah,
means a lot for those that know it, but like if that's your biggest news, I think that yeah, they're working on a lot of things, but so happy for those guys. They worked really hard. Um, they were on this podcast, and when they were on the podcast, I said, "I don't know why Bubble hasn't acquired you guys yet." So I'm just gonna put it out there. It made so much sense in so many ways. I'm just glad it happened.
yeah.
I
Hmm.
think Bubble will also get 2 more people part of their team that knows Bubble really well, knows their
Hmm.
user base really well, and will advocate for bubblers from the inside as well.
Yeah,
So all things really happy for all involved and glad it happened.
yeah, absolutely.
I think that's it.
Is that it for today?
I think that's it. We talked a lot today.
Yeah, word salad over here. I think that's about it.
Yeah, I think maybe we can have another future episode where we kind of talk about or we play a game where it's like in 3, 4 years from now, where is this company? And we kind of go through some of the players and like FlutterFlow, where are they going to be 3, like all that kind of stuff and
Yeah,
predict what this industry looks like as there's so many changes happening. I think folks will continue to find their own ways. And I think the industry is big enough for that to happen. And
yeah,
just because Bubble isn't focused on enterprise immediately doesn't mean it's not a good tool. It just means
yeah,
different things for different people, and that's okay
yeah,
too.
yeah. I agree.
So, well, that's it for
Alrighty.
this week in no code. And
We'll see
David,
you next week in No Code.